The following podcast you're about to listen to is brought to you by the Push Start Media Network, where everything you do in life begins with pushing start. Welcome back to another edition of Beat the Odds with SYE. Reuter, I messed that up last time. I said it was Sports Your Enthusiasm, but it wasn't. It was Beat the Odds last week, so I got it right this time. But nonetheless, you know me. I'm your humble host, Bryce Benjamin, along with my co-host, Mr. Ed Reuter, via satellite. What's good, sir?
It's a good night so far. It's a little sad you didn't announce my third straight week of co-host of the year, but that's fine. I guess we're off that train.
At this point, they got it. I think like 2 times in a row, they kind of understand who the co-host of the year is, who the co-host of the year was, the best there ever will be. I messed that up. I was trying to do the Bret Hart thing.
That's right. We're still members of the Hart Foundation. You're good, buddy. You're an honorary member. You're all set.
But, Reuter, we have special guests in the building. Well, via satellite, I like to say. He's been on the show before. You heard his beautiful voice, Mr. Joe Coscia. I said that right?
Absolutely.
All right, boom. I was practicing that. Joe, what's good, bro? How you doing?
Nothing. I was sad you didn't announce that I was the co-host of the year for
co. You know what? You're right. Let me rephrase that. My bad. Introducing the co-host of the year, Mr. Joe Coscia in the building.
That just doesn't sound right at all.
He's my Coco.
Once that came out, that I wanted to hit the rewind button on that. We edit this shit, right?
Hey, we're here now. It's too late. It's there. Ain't no going back.
Oh well.
How y'all feeling today, fellas?
I'm good. It's Friday. And I'm off for the next 2 days with the weekend. It's beautiful.
So, Joe, for those who don't know, I don't know if we had that discussion on our last podcast. Joe is a teacher. And, Joe, just real quick before we dive into the show, how is the remote teaching going? Are you remote? Are you in classes? What's going on there?
So I report to my school, but I'm fully virtual right now. I report to my school because my 2 boys come with me and they go into a learning center and do their school through a computer there with employees of my school that help them out. So I am fully virtual at least until November 9th, and then it probably looks like it's going to be some sort of hybrid instruction at that time. But yeah.
That's very exciting. All virtual. It's all digital.
Actually, it's not bad, man. I'm telling you, some kids thrive with it. The kids that don't do well in the classroom, some kids thrive with it. Some kids don't, but it's definitely interesting.
We're thinking about making Bryce all virtual from now on. Not even real. Hologram Bryce.
I am a very virtual person.
Your humble virtual host, Bryce Benjamin.
Gentlemen, week 4 is upon us. We are closing in on the first quarter of the season. We kind of know what teams are. A lot of teams are who we thought they were. A lot of teams aren't who we thought they were. And, yeah, man, so far so good. You know, we was moving forward all nice until Tennessee had to fuck it up. Good job, Titans. Thanks.
Remember the Titans.
But nonetheless, man, they're not going to stop the rest of these games. So we're going to go ahead. If you've been listening to our series, you know how this rolls. We're going to pick our picks against the spread. And then at the end, we're going to give our locks. And then I got a nice little free parlay for people listening as well. So if you want to throw some money down on it, I'm 2 for 2 on my parlays at back-to-back weeks. So I'm feeling good.
That's good stuff. That's good for the people to hear.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a betting man myself, but I'd listen to you.
Hey, trust me. I got you.
Big trust.
Right. Big trust. Whoop, whoop. First game we got on the slate here, gentlemen. Seattle Seahawks versus the Miami Dolphins. The Seahawks are the favorites at -5.5. The over-under is 54.5. Joe, I'm bringing this one to you, sir. Who do you got? Why are you picking them? Let's get it rolling.
You're not going to start with the Ed Reuter Miami Dolphin fan there?
Nah, Reuter got to go last. He's the Dolphins fan. He's got to give his knowledge last.
All right. So Ed just said he would never bet against the Dolphins, even though he's not a betting man, and that they're a weird team this year, and they're weird. They're still terrible, and they're still kind of playing for the future. When you look at the Seahawks, they're kind of weird too as a 4-0 team. They've had some interesting games. Russ Wilson's playing out of his mind right now. Just throwing the football, probably MVP candidate. He's probably number one on the list right now. The line's coming down for some strange reason. I had it at -6 when I looked it up earlier. Now it's -5.5 for them. I don't really know, why they're going down with it. I don't know if they have some sort of info that I don't have. I just can't see that Seattle won't beat Miami by more than a touchdown. So I would take Seattle on the spread at 5.5. That's a lock for me. I would take Seattle on that. As far as the over/under, the 54.5, I don't know. Seattle's secondary is a little banged up. They've been giving up a lot of passing yards. Fitzpatrick likes to make magic happen. But I think 54.5 is a little high. I'd actually take the under on this, expecting Seattle to put up the most points, but I don't think Miami puts up more than 20 in this game.
Okay. I'm staying away from this game in terms of betting because I just don't know. Seattle, like Russell Wilson, we know who he is, man. Right now, like you said, MVP leading candidate. He is just out of his mind what he's doing on the football field. Fitzmagic, are we going to get Fitzpatrick or are we going to get Fitzmagic? Like, that's kind of the question for me. If I was to bet on anything on this game, it would be like the over for it. Because Seattle's defense is terrible and Miami's defense is bad as well. And, I think a lot of points could fly if we get Fitzmagic. But we don't know. Like, in terms of picking the game, I'm going to roll with Seattle to win it. And I'll go with the score of like 30. Let's go 30 to 20, 21. 30, 21, yeah, why not?
That's the GD under, man. You just took the under.
Yeah, that's why I'm staying away from this game. I'm staying away from it because I honestly don't know. If I was to bet,
that's what I'm saying. I don't see a bigger score than 30 to 21 on this. And if anybody puts up more points, it's going to be Seattle, maybe 35 to 17 or something like that. Sitting at 54.5, that's a lot of points for this game, I think.
Reuter, you're the expert on Miami, man. Let us know. What should we do?
So the one thing that I heard you say, Bryce, was that you don't know who you're going to get, whether you're going to get Fitzpatrick or you're going to get Fitzmagic. Using my expertise here, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that there's another alter ego that you forgot about who I think is going to show up this week, and that's Ryan Fitztragic. That's another guy that likes to rear his ugly head every once in a while.
I quit. Can I just hang up the phone right now?
Is that it? Are you leaving us on Fitztragic?
I'm done.
That's it. He's left. He's left the building. He's out of here. I think he shows up because this is what he does. He starts off the year. You're going to get your best Fitzpatrick the first few weeks of the season before teams have a chance to remember that he's Ryan Fitzpatrick, and the defense lines up a little bit different against him. I don't see him doing much, although if the Seahawks have a weakness, I think Joe alluded to it, it's the fact that they don't have much of a pass rush. I don't think that that's going to be a factor. I think that Russell Wilson can throw all over this Miami Dolphins team. I see the score being something like 30 to 13 or something like that. And I think we're not far away from a Tua sighting. They've got a couple of games coming up in a row against the Jets, and I think we're going to see a steady decline here from Fitzpatrick, and we're going to see Tua probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So my prediction is going with the under, because I think, like Joe said, I don't see a lot of points being put up here. It's going to be Seattle putting up more, but I see it in like that 30 to 13 range somewhere in there.
I think a lot of that also with the under and kind of the line on this hinges on whether Chris Carson plays. He was trending as upward. He was limited participant in practice, but he's still questionable. As a 4-0 team against the Miami Dolphins, you're probably not going to push a guy like Carson. Carlos Hyde's also questionable too, so it could be like a Travis Homer situation starting for them. So that's something to keep an eye on as well with this game.
I'll tell you what, it was just the one game that I caught for the Seahawks when I think they were on primetime at some point, and I watched Travis Homer.
He runs hard.
That guy, he runs hard as hell. He hits the hole really hard. I was kind of impressed. I'm like, oh, look at this guy.
He's a little guy too. He's a little tiny guy.
Yeah, he's a gamer though. He'll show up on Sunday if they need him. But yeah, I don't think the Dolphins just don't have the firepower to match the Seahawks. Even if somehow the Dolphins get up early, which I don't think they will. They're not going to be able to contend with the Seahawks.
Jamal Adams, Jordan Brooks, and Quentin Dunbar are all out for the Seahawks. Does that change your minds at all?
I mean, the Jamal Adams. I mean, that secondary. I mean, obviously will take a hit. And again, I think Bryce, you said it best. Which Fitzpatrick shows up. I don't think it changes my mind in this game. I think Pete Carroll is going to have his guys ready to play. Seattle just doesn't lose a game to Miami. And with the NFC West the way it is right now, with how competitive it is, it's a must-win game for them. They know it. They can't go into Miami and lose this game.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. All right, moving on.
Should I? Let me
My
do
bad,
it.
Rudy. Yeah,
That's all right. No, I've got to do it for you. I've got to give the announcement of the next game on the slate. It's been tradition now over the first few weeks that when we see the next game coming up, it's Bryce's very own Baltimore Ravens facing off in a 1:00 matchup down there in Washington against, you know them, you love them, the football team, the DCFC.
Oh, hell, the Washington football team.
Is that their fight song?
That's the new theme song for them.
They sound like and they play like a college team. I love it. So we're gonna let Bryce go last, but it's been tradition that I announce it. So I guess that means Joe, your take on Baltimore and Washington.
All right. I mean, as Bryce said, we kind of were talking a little bit before we went on air, and he said there's not much really to talk about in this game. Baltimore's coming off of a really tough game against Kansas City. It's going to be a short week for them.
Hey, let's call it what it was. We got our asses whooped.
Yeah, I mean, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
It was an absolute – and Kansas City is kind of like – I always thought of Pedro Martinez when he called the Yankees his daddy. That's kind of how I think of Lamar Jackson to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs now. Until they can, prove it otherwise. But yeah, that was a bad showing for Baltimore on Monday night. So I think they're going to come in and absolutely destroy Washington. Now I make it a rule where I don't touch games that have a line of more than a spread more than 10. The Ravens are getting 14 points right now. I wouldn't touch it just because I think Baltimore will blow them out by 30, but I just don't touch a line that big, minus 14. If I had to bet it, if somebody put a gun to my head and said put money onto it, I'd probably pick Baltimore. Their defense is unreal. Washington can't stop the run. I read something just today that Washington has given up 150-plus yards and 2 touchdowns the past 2 weeks to running backs. So that fits right into what Baltimore does best. I see a lot of Mark Ingram, a lot of Lamar Jackson running the ball, a lot of Dobbins, a lot of Gus Edwards. I think they're just going to, just shove it down their throat and run the ball like crazy.
Shove it.
Yeah, it's a win. If you're picking a win, obviously a win. I just don't like touching games with a spread like that.
So I think I would agree entirely with what Joe said there. I think that they will run all over them. I read the same thing that Joe did earlier today. It was 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. The thing that I would add to that too is that all of the criticism that came in the week after that debacle with Kansas City was that they didn't run the ball enough, and I don't think Harbaugh makes that mistake again. Early in the game against the Chiefs, the running game was working. Just those rushes with Lamar off the edge where they were sealing the edge and he was getting around the outside just looked unstoppable. And that's against a pretty damn good front seven of the Chiefs. What I will say, Washington's front seven can look kind of formidable at times, but I don't think that's enough to hold Baltimore back. And I think very simply, Baltimore wins. With the spread, like Joe said, again, very tough. But I'm going to go Baltimore here, and I think you kind of have to go with the over if you're going to pick this game, and you got to look at it as something like 35-17 or somewhere along those lines, maybe a cheap, easy touchdown at the end, and some kind of a prevent defense situation with Washington.
Over makes me nervous again too, because Baltimore defense, I think they come out and play too. They've kind of looked exposed against Kansas City. They're one of the top units. defensively in the NFL. I can see what's the overs at 45.5. I can see it being like a 44-2 game or something like that to really screw you on the over.
Here's one quick question before we turn it over to Bryce.
That'd be crazy.
That's the sort of shit, though, that would happen. I mean, Ed and I have some fantasy football stories you wouldn't believe, and that's